On January 29, 2022, folks in Canton, Massachusetts were getting ready for an incoming blizzard. It was a Friday night and recreational events for the weekend were being canceled. So before the storm came in, a bunch of locals decided to hit the bars in downtown. Boston police officer John O'Keefe was one of those people. He met some friends at C.F. McCarthy's, then his girlfriend, college professor Karen Reed, joined him. Across the street at the Waterfall Bar and Grill were Chris and Julie Albert, who used to be neighbors of John. Chris's brother, Brian, also a Boston police officer, was there with his wife, and they were joined by Jennifer and Matt McCabe and an ATF agent named Brian Higgins. Eventually, Karen and John joined everyone at the Waterfall, and when the bar closed at midnight, Brian Albert invited everyone over to his house for an after party. Brian's son, Brian Jr., was already there celebrating his birthday with some friends, including Julie Nagel and Chris and Julie Albert's son, Colin. Karen drove John to the house. John got out of the car. John was found dead the next morning on the front lawn. Yet despite all the people who were at the parties and at the house, no one, absolutely no one says they saw what happened to John O'Keefe. Prosecutors have charged Karen with his murder, claiming she ran him over on purpose with her SUV. Karen says she's innocent and has blamed the death on the people in the house. She also says the lead investigator, Trooper Michael Proctor, coordinated a cover-up and framed her. Tonight, we take another look at the snowy crime scene. Was this a solid investigation, or was evidence planted at the scene? We'll break it down as we investigate the tragic death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And in the murder trial of Karen Reed, we are at a critical, crucial point for both sides. Really, for both sides. Because of the witness who is on the stand and will continue his testimony. It's the lead investigator, Trooper Michael Proctor. Now, one of the things that he did is he was gathering some of the evidence. Evidence that if you believe Trooper Proctor and you trust him and what he found, that evidence clearly implicates Karen Reed as being the cause of John O'Keefe's death. He's finding pieces of the tail light there at the scene where John O'Keefe's body was. Tail light that belongs to Karen Reed's SUV. So this guy is absolutely crucial. If this jury believes him and trusts him, it's game over for Karen Reed. It's over. Because the evidence that he's finding clearly implicates her and her SUV. Now, what's interesting about the evidence that he's gathering, though, is the manner and the way it was gathered. Very unusual. I mean, over the course of days and weeks that things are being found at the crime scene. An unsecured crime scene, by the way. And the explanation was that everything was slowed by the snow. We know that John O'Keefe was on that front yard and he was covered in snow. It was the big blizzard that came in. There was an accumulation of snow. It was cold. It was not nice out over the course of days. But that's the reason he's alleging that it took so long to find all these pieces and it had to go back again and again to find more evidence. Obviously, the defense has a different take on all of that. They say he's going back because he's planting more and more evidence. Now, one thing that we learned about Michael Proctor from his testimony, it was on direct, and it's come out on part of the cross already, is he sent some really bad text messages, like really bad text messages that make him look extremely unprofessional and biased in his investigation. And that's a problem, and that's something prosecution's gonna have to explain and something that they have to overcome. Now, his cross-examination just began on Monday. We just got sort of the beginning of it. It was extremely powerful and potentially devastating, depending upon your perspective in all this. And we don't know what the jury's thinking about it. But it was it was not the normal cross-examination of a lead investigator, is what we saw. So now, today was a day off, so Alan Jackson, the man doing the cross-examination, had like a whole day now to get ready for the continuation of his cross-examination. And it's, again, a crucial, crucial moment in this trial. So let's bring in Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, who is joining us live from outside the courthouse in Dedham, Massachusetts. Matt, great to see you at the courthouse, which I recognize, but I'm looking behind you and I see some things that weren't there when I was there. What's going on?
Right, Vinny. Nice to see you as well. So it's very competitive to get one of the 10 coveted media seats inside this courthouse, the Norfolk County Courthouse, right here behind me in Dedham, Massachusetts. You already see 10 chairs lined up. That's the exact number of spots that they have. And it's standing room only if you don't get a stool to sit on, if you're one of the first 5. And you stand right behind the O'Keefe family and listen to testimony. You face the jury. But it's very different than other trials that we've covered. I'm going to relate it to other high-profile cases like Alec Murdaugh, that trial there in South Carolina. You may have heard of it. We had a designated seat. It's Court TV cameras in here. It was Court TV cameras in that courtroom as well. And then also in Ada County, Idaho, it was a lottery system. Well, not so much at this courthouse. It's first come, first serve, and the chairs start lining up. Ours is out there at 4:30 the day before testimony for the next day. That's
unreal. Yeah, so you're going to stay up all night and guard the chair, I presume, right? Make sure no one rearranges the chairs. Okay, so let's talk about the end of the day on Monday. Let's talk about how that day ended. This was a big, big moment.
This was a big moment. It was very intense, and we're going to pick back up where we left off. And yesterday we were hearing testimony from the lead investigator, Trooper Proctor. He was on the stand talking about those text messages between friends, family, and his supervisors about Karen Read and her attorney, David Yannetti. Take a listen.
I texted my sister, "What's up?" She responded, "Nothing. I just saw Julie, and she said when this is all over, she wants to get you a thank you gift." And I respond, "Get Elizabeth one." Elizabeth's my wife. And my sister responds, "Because I guess her and Chris were friends with John, and she's so proud of you for leading this."
Now, watch for this when testimony resumes tomorrow morning, because David Yannetti, during his testimony, stopped what he was doing. Usually he's taking notes and typing on his keyboard. Karen Read is passing notes. Both of them leaned back and then at one point leaned forward, and they were staring at the witness on the stand. And the day ended with this. Take a listen.
To be clear, when you sent those text messages on that group chat, those text messages included, as we said, or as you said, not one but 2 of your supervisors, correct?
Correct.
Were you ever reprimanded for your conduct in sending that text message?
Objection.
So that's sustained. Do we need to go to sidebar based on what you told me earlier?
We do not.
Okay, so...
I'll ask it a different way.
Okay.
Did either Trooper Fanning or Trooper Buchanan dress you down in a responsive text message in that text thread for doing something so abhorrent as looking for nudes or referring to nudes of a female suspect or subject of your investigation? Did that ever happen?
Not that I can recall.
As a matter of fact, in reference to one of the text messages in this same string, your boss, Yuri Buchanan, actually responded to the photo of Mr. Yannetti, didn't he?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
He did, sir.
Buchanan and the other supervisors were part of that text message we learned. So he was asking Alan Jackson in this cross whether or not he was reprimanded. Remember, Trooper Proctor is a troubled witness because he is under investigation with Massachusetts State Police for his alleged wrongdoing in this case.
It's a lose-lose, right? If they don't investigate him, then it's like, hey, it's okay for state police to do and have this type of communication with one another. And the fact that it is being addressed is also a problem. So it's a lose-lose. I get it. It's getting personal. This has now gotten personal, which is extremely rare, you know, between the investigators and the defense attorneys. Wow. Okay. Let's talk about Trooper Proctor. Now, the other part of the attack from the defense has always been his connection to people. What do you think he'll be asked about his relationship with the Alberts in this case?
Yeah, and that goes to this being personal as well, and the tight-knit community that this is. It seems that everybody knows everybody else and involved in this case. So Trooper Proctor, on direct examination, was asked how he knows the owners of 34 Fairview, and also Julian Chris Albert and Colin Albert. And here's what his answer was.
We spoke with Matthew and Jennifer McCabe as well as Brian Albert.
And those interviews that you conducted, were they how were they conducted?
One-on-one, Sergeant Buchanan and myself kind of rotated out Jennifer, Matthew, and Brian. So first we interviewed Jennifer, and then once that was completed, we had her step out, go to a separate room, brought in Matthew, and then the same thing with Brian.
And for the balance of the interviews that you conducted several interviews over the course of your investigation in this case, is that correct?
Correct.
And for those interviews, as far as individually done, was that primarily what you did with each of the people that you interviewed over the course of the investigation?
Yes, each interview conducted was either with Sergeant Buchanan or another trooper in one-on-one, with the exception of Julian Chris Albert, I believe, were in the same room as us. I texted my sister, "What's up?" She responded, "Nothing. I just saw Julie, and she said when this is all over, she wants to get you a thank you gift." And I respond, "Get Elizabeth one." Elizabeth's my wife. And my sister responds, "Because I guess her and Chris were friends with John, and she's so proud of you for leading this."
Now, on direct, he said that his relationships and knowing them as acquaintances, which is the word that he used, had no impact on his investigation, Vinny. But he's yet to be asked this same line of questioning and answer on cross.
I think that will be a big part of what we see and hear tomorrow. I think something else I have to question him about is the evidence that he recovered from the scene. How do you anticipate that going?
Well, yeah, it was a big part of the direct examination because he was also showing pieces of the evidence, those large pieces of red taillight that was shown to the jury. It's very impactful anytime that they are shown evidence. They lean in, they pay close attention, they take lots of notes. Few of those jurors tend to look at each other. So he did that, and he was answering questions about how he discovered them after all of the other initial searches weeks later. Here's his answer on direct.
Proctor, subsequent dates following February 3rd, specifically February 8th, 11th, and 18th. Did you have occasion to return to 34 Fairview Road on those days?
I did.
And you had mentioned a little bit about sort of changes in the weather. What, if anything, sort of evolved as far as the weather was concerned between the dates of February 3rd when you were there and February 8th, 11th, and 18th?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the weather pattern had kind of fluctuated from 30 degrees up to 60 degrees with a handful of days of heavy rain mixed in. So that caused a lot of snow to melt as well.
And with respect to each of those respective days of February 8th, 11th, and 18th, what, if anything, did you observe or recover, you and the other troopers that were present on those days?
Yeah, there's further evidence that was originally buried under the snow because of the warm temperature and the rain and the snow melting kind of revealed itself. More pieces of plastic, clear and red.
So Proctor is going to be asked questions about that on cross, finding that key evidence weeks later. He's also going to be asked about that Sallyport video that was presented initially as a mirror image where you can't see him in the back of the vehicle and what he's doing, Vinny.
This is so important tomorrow. Such a big, big day, and really for both sides, right? I mean, the defense has to undermine his credibility because if the jury believes this investigator, I think Karen Read is done. But there are a lot of issues, and Matt Johnson will be there, seat number 1 online for tomorrow. Thank you so much, Matt. Great to see you. Let me bring in a special guest joining me, retired FBI Special Agent Senior Lecturer at the University of New Haven, Kenneth Gray. Kenneth, I need you tonight, and this is why. The explanation as to why this lead investigator keeps returning to the scene and suddenly finding new evidence. So let me play for you another little piece of his testimony, and then I want to go over the weather with you. So let's take a listen.
Okay.
So after the 29th, there was close to, 2 feet of snow that had fallen? And in the days and weeks that had followed, the temperatures ranged from 30 degrees up to 60 degrees. And there was about a half a dozen days mixed in of, heavy rain. So as the snow started to melt, more evidence started to present itself.
So there were items that you recovered on the 3rd and then items you recovered on successive dates that weren't visible or you didn't see on the 3rd, correct?
Correct.
All right, so let's take a look at how this weather. So the 29th, right? This is when it all happens. You have a high of 29. You have the snow falling. The next day, the 30th, only goes up to 23 degrees, low of 10. Next day, only up to 30, low of 14. Cloudy again, but 35, so it's warming up a little bit, low of 18. February 2nd, finally up to 40 degrees, low of 31. And then the 3rd, the first day he goes there, you've got a high of 47, a low of 36, and rain. So he's saying that's as the snow's being washed away. You move to my birthday, February 4th, a high of 40, a low of 22, but it looks like there's a little more snow. Then sunny and cold on the 5th. Sunny, partly cloudy, and cold on the 6th. Then warming up with some rain on the 7th. And then the sun comes out on the 8th. Again, it's over 40 degrees. That's another time that he responds on the 8th. Then the next day, above 40 again and sunny. Then more rain, up to 50 on the 10th. 51 on the 11th, and he's back finding more evidence. And then the 12th, it's 60, 39, he's not there. Some snow on the 13th, cold on the 14th, cold on the 15th, warming up on the 16th, very warm on the 17th, and then he returns on the 18th as it's over 60 degrees and sunny. So Ken, I gave you the weather, I gave you his explanation. Does it make sense to you over the course of all these days to keep returning to a very, it's not a large crime scene. It's a very contained crime scene in front of this home. Does this make sense to you?
Vinny, here's the thing, is that when you have a crime scene, you establish the area of the crime scene, and then after you finish processing that crime scene, you release the crime scene. When you release that crime scene, somebody can come in there and they can seed evidence in there, they can remove evidence from there, they can do all kinds of things. So once you have released the crime scene, you go back and find stuff, it calls into question the validity of that piece of evidence. And so you have to make sure to get as much of the crime scene completed while you are there. And if you want to ensure that your case is not questioned, you have to maintain a presence there until you can find the evidence that is located in that area. Otherwise, it calls into question whether it's really evidence or if it's planted evidence.
And that's exactly what the defense is saying here. Something else they did initially, they used a leaf blower to blow some of the snow away. Some of the blood evidence was collected in Solo cups. And here you see some of the pieces that are found in all of these trips. These are pieces that are not initially found on the day that John O'Keefe is found dead there. The scene is not secured. So what are your thoughts about how should a jury trust this evidence? Should a court accept this evidence if you haven't put the tape up and left someone there? And understand, though, this is bad weather. It's a blizzard coming through. This isn't just a little bit of snow. Like, he's on the yard before the snow starts to fall, and that storm comes in on Saturday and in the overnight hours. What do you think a jury should do with this?
So it's a difficult call in this case. I'm in Connecticut. We're not far away from this area. We have had difficulty at times because of snowfall, but the problem is that they did not keep the area secure. They did not secure the crime scene to be able to look for evidence that was buried under the snow. And consequently, the jury has got to question the validity of this evidence. That's something that actually, it's up to them whether or not they're going to accept this evidence or not. The trooper can describe the conditions that existed at the time and how he found the evidence, but they're going to have to ask themselves while they're trying to come to a verdict in this case, whether or not this is actual evidence or if it's planted evidence.
Kenneth Gray, always great to have you on the program. Appreciate your time. I know we'll be speaking again soon. Thanks so much. When we come back, we'll bring in our trial insiders, plus coming up next hour.
Stephen Stearns facing two separate trials, one for the sexual assaults of 13-year-old Madeline Soto and the second for the murder of Madeline. And now prosecutors will be seeking the death penalty. We have all the details from Central Florida.
He took an oath to protect and serve.
But now this former police officer is accused of murder.
We'll take you inside the courtroom as Miles Bryant faces a jury.
The Taken Teen murder trial, weekday mornings on Court TV. This week,
We're getting you all ready for the major trials. Plus, Friday, our voice for the victims shines a light on the mystery behind the murders at an upscale shopping mall.
opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Now, as far as any of those occasions that you just described, that you went to the area of 34 Fairview Road, on any of those occasions, were you by yourself?
No.
And with respect to those other occasions, what type of people or who was with you? I know you've mentioned on the 3rd, but beyond the 3rd, those other occasions that you described, who was with you?
On the 18th, I believe it was Trooper DeChico, based on the handwriting on the evidence bag, kind of recognized his handwriting. And the other 2 dates, I don't recall who was out there with me.
So the question is, will this jury be comfortable with the way this incriminating evidence was collected and allegedly found by Trooper Michael Proctor? Let me bring in my guests, our insiders. Joining us tonight, Karen Reed supporter, creator of the Justice for Officer John O'Keefe and Karen Reed Facebook page. You see him in the courtroom, Nick Rocco. Also with us, criminal defense attorney Joseph Krowski Jr., who at one time represented Colin Albert. And the YouTuber behind Yellow Cottage Tales, Kevin Lenahan, is with us. Joseph, you weren't with us yesterday. Are you comfortable?
I was not.
Are you comfortable with the way this evidence was collected in these trips, returning again and again and again and finding another piece, another piece, another piece of evidence? I laid out the weather for everybody.
I might have been a week ago, but after the testimony yesterday and after, in their proper context, all of those texts were admitted into evidence, I don't think a jury's going to be comfortable with much that Trooper Proctor did. Look, from the start, I said this was probably a motor vehicular drunk driving case, not a murder case. I wholeheartedly believe that the conspiracy is absurd. The third-party culprit is absurd. However, having said that, I've also been clear. Karen Reed and John O'Keefe both deserved an investigation unfettered by any bias, any conflict, or any other malfeasance. What I heard yesterday, you cannot explain away by calling it locker room talk. You can't say that it's just casual conversation. It's repulsive, it's abhorrent, and certainly it's endemic to this state. There's a lot of black and brown faces that are serving jail sentences based on planted evidence or testifying or malfeasance by the police. So I don't think Karen comes out of this looking like a great person. Having said that, with those texts, the bias that was displayed in those texts, think about O.J. Simpson. What is the third rail? You don't ever refer to an African-American defendant using the N-word. Likewise, you don't refer to a female defendant using the C word. Karen Reed was out on release on bail, and she was in compliance with the conditions. His sentiment that he was almost gleeful to speed over and take her into custody, his seizing her phone and knowing that there was text between David Yannetti and herself in there without a taint proceeding. If I'm going to be true to myself and true to the career I've done for 25 years, I don't think she's factually innocent for hitting him, but I don't know how a jury gets past yesterday. It's that compelling for me.
Let's play a little piece that you just referenced there, Joseph, because I don't know what may have been muted in our broadcast here, but let's take a listen.
So these came from me. From all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. She's a whack job.
Objection.
So don't spell it. You have to. So these are your words, Trooper Proctor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead and say them.
Yes, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
And sir, what is it that you were referring to there, or why would you text that?
These were, from all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. Is talking about the homeowner, Mr. Albert. I had mentioned the compelling evidence against Miss Reed at this point indicated that Mr. Albert had nothing to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death. The rest of the unprofessional and regrettable comments are something I'm not proud of, and I shouldn't have wrote in a private or any type of setting.
Kevin, do you think this is the first time that this has happened, or what do you think the jury takes away from this? What are you taking away from this? Do you think this is like normal SOP for Massachusetts State Police when they're investigating someone and now it's been uncovered? And are you taking away from it that you trust police less, or you just think this is the way they are and they can do their job despite this?
Well, if you take away all of the evidence gathered by Michael Proctor, you still have more than enough. You have the evidence that was collected by the 7-man CERT team at the crime scene, and you have data evidence, and you have Karen's own statements and a whole bunch of other stuff. Now, does that mean that Michael Proctor's messages are not troubling? Of course they are. Of course they are. But none of them go to the collection of the evidence. And so to me, when I go back to when I first started covering this case last summer, there was a lot of odd things. Michael Proctor, there was the Chief Berkowitz and the 227. But for me, it came down to the fundamental evidence related to the timeline. There was no opportunity to tamper with that taillight and plant that evidence at the scene before the CERT team dug it up.
Okay, Nick, what I want to do is go through how everyone knows each other, and you tell me if, number one, if I'm getting this right, and why you believe this is a problem. John O'Keefe is friends with Jennifer McCabe. John's niece and Jen's daughter are friends. Jennifer McCabe and Matthew McCabe are married. They have a daughter named Allison McCabe who testified. Jennifer McCabe's sister is Nicole Albert. Nicole Albert is married to Brian Albert. Their kids are Brian Jr. and Caitlin Albert. Brian Albert Sr.'s brother is Chris Albert. Chris is married to Julie Albert, and their son is Colin. Colin is friends with Allison McCabe, and she drove him home from the party at the Alberts. Colin's mom, Julie Albert's best friend, is Courtney Proctor. Courtney Proctor's brother is Trooper Michael Proctor. Michael Proctor led the investigation into John O'Keefe's death. Why is that a problem?
Well, this is a very tight family. I mean, everybody that's pictured here has a close relationship. So when you do this timeline of how far removed Michael Proctor is from John O'Keefe, all those people would be pretty much considered one. As you can see, they're in group text messages together. But this new information that's coming out, it's basically just a pattern of deception that Michael Proctor's been doing since day one. From texting his buddies on the first day, a few hours after, letting them know what's going on in an ongoing murder investigation, to his police reports where he's leaving key witnesses out of the police reports, and the names that are in the police reports are spelled wrong. And if you look at his previous work that he's done, he's been stellar. He's never made blunders like this before. But, he has acquaintances with these people, so it's interesting how that starts to happen. And one of the main people, an eyewitness to this basically scene, 1 a.m, 3 a.m, you have the plow driver driving down the road. He doesn't see a body at 1 a.m, 3 a.m, there's a Ford Edge there, right? 3 hours before that, when John's body was found. So they never went and interviewed the plow driver until the feds got to them. They never interviewed this plow driver because they put forwards that a company called By the Yard plowed this street, when in fact it was the town of Canton. So this has been a continuous pattern of the state police and Michael Proctor since day one. So these text messages are not the first thing that he's done. People who are following this case have seen what's been going on, and
we may see a whole lot more as the cross-examination continues tomorrow. All right, everyone's staying where they are. When we come back, I want to turn the focus back to a place where it gets lost sometimes. The victim in all this, John O'Keefe.
Did you have any siblings?
2, yes. My sister, Kristen. And, brother John. They all called him Johnny, especially if you're a family.
And what did Johnny do for work?
Boston Police.
How long was he a member of the Boston?
16 years.
When was it about that he started with the sex offender registry?
So after my sister had passed away in 2013, her husband passed away 2 months after that. My brother he took on responsibility of raising our niece and nephew. And so the Boston Police, to ensure that he was safe and protected, moved him to that unit in 2014.
Paul and Johnny went out to lunch one day, and we had kind of assumed, because Johnny was out on, the streets doing his job like that Paul and I would take the kids, and Johnny said he was going to do it.
We met through mutual friends, and then our kids became very friendly.
He was our friend. He was really good to me and my kids.
We were close. We did a lot of stuff together, pick up the kids, drop the kids off. We coordinated a lot of stuff together.
Him and my husband would always do the games. The kids used to call them my two dads. It was like they had a lot of fun together.
He was my friend. I love John. He was an amazing guy.
I've known him since high school. He was one of my closest friends.
So my daughter was very good friends with his niece. And so, she would be over all the time, and JJ would come over with and pick her up, and he would come in and talk to us and hang out.
I met John in May of 2013. I met him at a bar in South Boston he was with Pat Rogers at the time. Post meeting John, I started dating Pat, and my son's father is Pat Rogers. In July of 2013, I became pregnant, and in November of 2013, Pat committed suicide. Immediately following that, John never really left my side, as a support system.
He was a very, very dear family friend. He was very close to my sister, subsequently became very close to me and my family as a result. And he was my nephew's godfather.
He was somebody who was there for my sister during her darkest times. So I really respected him for that. But yeah, he was a big brother and a family friend.
My last communication with him was on a group text exchange. He was excited because our niece had gotten accepted to Bishop Fee in high school. So he was happy, proud dad moment. And then, national math scores came back and he scored extremely high. So he was extremely proud of that day as well.
So part of this, both sides, it's really baffling me. I want to bring back in our insiders because on the one hand, you've got Karen Read in the defense is accusing someone in the house of taking his life, and they're accusing Karen Read of taking his life. Would either anyone here that knows John O'Keefe take his life? I mean, because if you take his life, those two children that he's raising who lost a mother and a father now are losing their uncle who's raising them. Like, who that knows John O'Keefe would do that? Would do that on purpose? Like, that doesn't make sense to me, whether it's anyone in the house who knows exactly what these children have gone through, and Karen Read, who knows exactly what these children have gone through. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
I'll go first.
All right.
Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Nick. Well, look, that's a good question, and I think the only plausible explanation for that is how this case was originally charged, with a drunken drive-in hit-and-run accident. I think, and I don't necessarily disagree with what Kevin said earlier in the segment, that the evidence is significant, strong, pretty overwhelming in that regard, not on the murder charge.
But what you're saying is she wouldn't, if she did it, she wouldn't have done it on purpose, knowing...
I've said, Vinny, I've said that from the start. I think the case was overcharged as a murder.
All right, before we run out of time, Nick, from your perspective, okay? You're in that courtroom. John's parents, his family are there, and everything else. Like, what is that like, being there supporting Karen Read? Knowing, and it's such a small courtroom. Everyone knows, people who are sitting on what side of all of this. Your organization is Justice for John O'Keefe and Karen Read. So, how are you seeing this issue? To me, it's difficult.
Right. I mean, all of it is unfortunate, and we truly believe that John O'Keefe will not get justice until Karen Read is acquitted, and the people that were inside that house or whoever had involvement in the murder of John O'Keefe can be brought on the stand and questioned, because unfortunately...
But do you believe someone in the house knowing John O'Keefe with these children? That's like, you have to be so cold to do that to these kids.
I agree. I believe it was an accident. I don't think that I don't think anybody meant to kill John O'Keefe on purpose. Any man that can step up on a drop of a dime and basically change your whole life, take care of two kids when you were just a bachelor, is an absolute hero to those kids and to everybody that is involved in his life. It seemed like John was there for everybody. So I personally do not believe that somebody meant to kill John O'Keefe in that house. I think it was a tragic accident.
How about you, Kevin? Where are you on this? Because you think about it, for Karen Read to do this on purpose, she would have to be like cold as ice, knowing she knows these kids, knowing what they've been through, losing one parent, then losing another parent, and now the man who's raised you for years, your uncle who's doing everything he can to make your lives better. Now you're gonna take him out?
Well, thank you for doing that. That was a really nicely done segment there. And also, I think it also came out in trial that when he had a chance to get a discount for the kids, he got all the kids from all the people in their circle, bought them sneakers. So this was a truly good man, and we don't want to ever lose sight of that. I don't think there's any question that if Karen did this, and I do believe that she did, that it was premeditated. I do think the evidence and the vehicle data when it comes out is going to show that what she did do was the result of extreme anger and impulse control. So that's why I do believe the second-degree charge will stick. And I also just want to add this. I think that the jury may be tempted to think they might nullify because of the texts of Michael Proctor, and they maybe want to punish the police. But when they remember what a good man John was and what happened here, I think that'll balance off.
All right, we only have a few seconds left here. 0 to 10, how big of a day is tomorrow? Joseph, I'll start with you.
I would say it's an 8 to 10. I think building off of what we just saw yesterday, this is everything to this case. And look, it might be prophylactic in nullification. Proctor's the lead investigator, and it goes just beyond that. Bias does violate the right to due process of a defendant. That's why I'm so troubled by it as a defense lawyer.
All right, only have time. Just give me a number. Nick first, then Kevin. Give me a number. 10. Kevin?
10.
5. I think the bigger evidence is to come later in the week.
All right. Nick Rocco, Joseph Krowski Jr., Kevin Lenahan, thank you all.